What's up, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jordan, aka Bukar. Today we're going to be doing a track breakdown of Catacombs, which is one of the songs off of my debut EP, Rest in Pandalus. If you haven't given a listen yet, I'll leave the link in the description. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Alrighty, so before we start breaking this down, in case anybody hasn't heard the song yet, I just want to go ahead and give it a quick listen. So here we go. Alrighty, so now that we kind of got an idea of what we're working with here, guys, let's hop right into the intro. First thing I've got here are a couple of freaky atmospheres. And all I'm doing on these is just a little bit of basic EQ. You'll notice at the beginning of this atmosphere here, I've got like a reverse reverb sweep. That's all that is. I've also got this intro song starter here. Not even EQing it. I probably should have, but who cares? And this is just doing like a little bit of forward motion, just keeping the intro chugging along. Got an impact here from Black Sheep. Then we've got a short sweep here from Cashmere. So with all of those elements, this is what we get. Now it still sounds pretty empty, so what I'm using to fill up majority of this intro here is these guitars. Some really nice beefy guitars. So this first layer here, this is Shreddage 3 Hydra. This is pretty much the guitar I use for everything. So I'm using the Entombed plugin here. Right out the box, this guitar sounds pretty amazing. And I'm just doing a little bit of EQ here. I know it sounds like I'm cutting out quite a lot, but I have a second layer here, which is the same guitar, but we're using a different preset here. This is the Modern Metal 4 preset. So once again, guitar by itself. Nice and beefy, just doing a little bit of EQ work here. And then layering the two up. And then last thing I got here, this is another shreddage. This is the Shreddage Precision 3. This is the free version. It's free, so if you don't have it, I highly recommend it. I'm using the Modern Metal preset here. This guy on its own doesn't sound bad. It is a little weak. So I just put a stock amp on the bass preset. I literally didn't touch any of the knobs just to beef it up. Then a little bit of EQ. So with all the guitar layers together, we get this. So with all of our elements here in the intro, this is what we get. All right, now getting into the build. Very, very simple build drum. So I've got this VRG kick here, and this guy's just getting a little bit of EQ. It's really just tone shaping. Nothing crazy. I'm layering that up with this snare here, which again, just simple EQ, cutting the lows. And I'm layering them up. And then I have this washout rack here that is just pretty much just washing out. So I went for very simple build drums here, nothing crazy. You'll see there's like a little bit of a kick roll at the end here, and then another kick roll leading into our fake out. Then getting into some effects here. So I'm just carrying over all these atmospheres from the intro, continuing them all the way through. I also added a downlifter here. And a second downlifter. Guitars stay the same, and then I added a couple risers here. This Black Sheep riser, I really love using this riser because it has kind of a impact down sweep into a riser built into it. It's all like one big effect. And then this Freaky riser, this is kind of like a Reese riser. It's got like a little bit of low end to it, which is the main reason I wanted to go for something like this. You guys kind of get the idea with that one. And then here is pre-drop. So we've got this scream vocal. And then we've got a couple impacts here as well, which lead into this Muerte sweep. So the three of those combined, we get this. And then on the effects group here, I have a saturator with a little bit of drive, bringing the dry wet down, some multiband compression, and then a G-clip, which is just clipping, which honestly, this probably doesn't even need it. I don't think I'm pushing anything hard enough to need a G-clip there, but more so just a safety precaution. And then in these, you'll hear the washout, which comes from my sidechain group. So I have a washout here on my sidechain group, which everything from the bass group and the effects is being routed through this. So that's where my washout effect is coming from, is up here. Then last thing in the intro here, we got some basses that we're filtering in. This is the gun bass from the drop, which you can see, we're just filtering it in. And then, of course, washing it out. Now realizing this is being washed out twice, but that's fine. So with all the elements together, it's going to complete our build, and this is what we end up with. All right, so let's get into this fake out here. Obviously, the big thing is the basses. These are the same basses from the build. I've got this fake out rack here. Shout out to my boy Moros. It's just a telephone vocal with a little bit of reverb. Nothing fancy. That's what's giving us that effect on our basses. Of course, we got a little bit of drum work going on. Biggest thing is just a kick with some cymbals on the downbeat here, and then we've got a China leading into the drop. So the drums here. I've also got my snare and then a little pickup snare. And then the last thing here, this is what really beefs up this fake out. I've got my guitars still carrying through here. So this is the same melody from the intro. And then we've got a sub drop with the impact. And then of course some risers. And then, sorry, I forgot. I've got one last little sub drop here before getting to the actual drop. And that lines up with the snare and the drum group. Then we've got this vocal. So this is a Muerte vocal. I'm really not doing anything to it, except I did pitch it down a little bit, and then I added a second layer here, and this layer is pitched down one semitone from the top layer, as well as it's got this redux on it, which kind of gives it this like bit crush effect.
I got skulls up in my home, call that shit the catacombs, yeah.
So when you combine the two,
I got skulls up in my home, call that shit the catacombs, yeah.
it does sound out of context, like it's a little bit much, but in context, it really cuts through the mix. So that's why I didn't bother to try and clean that up anymore. And then last thing, a little sweep into our drop. All right, so with everything together, this is our fake out. All right, time for the good stuff here. Let's get into the drop. First thing we got are our drop drums. So I've got my VRG kick here. Once again, like slight EQ work, nothing crazy. You might not even be able to hear that unless you've got headphones on. And then G clip here. I'm not even pushing the kick at all. These VRG kicks are pushed a good amount to begin with, so all I did was just a little bit of EQing. Then I've got this snare clap layer, which is pretty crazy. So I've got this snare, which is carrying majority of the weight. I also have this snare metal layer, which has got this kind of pinging sound to it. I find that like kind of metallic ping is a pretty like common characteristic when it comes to snares in like this heavy dubstep / Tearout genre. So it was important that I had that, and then this clap, just to kind of give it a little bit more of like that airy feel. So with all three layers together, we get this, and then I am processing them together. So I've got this hybrid reverb rack here. This is a technique I picked up from Samplifier. This isn't his complete clap group, which I do have, but this is just the hybrid reverb portion of that clap group. If you haven't watched his masterclass, I highly suggest it. It's really, really, really good. So basically, hybrid reverb here. I'm doing a little bit of EQ on it, and then it's parallel process. So I've got a dry chain and a wet chain, basically. Without this, it's gonna sound like this. So very dry, and then so yeah, and then I've got some transient shaper here, bringing up the attack, and then a little bit of cleanup EQ at the end here. G clip, again, I'm not even pushing anything. The G clip is just there to clip it at the end. So next thing up, we got our tops here, which these are nothing fancy at all. So we've got, these are the rides here. And then we've got a crash on every other downbeat. All together. And then I'm just delaying this whole tops group a little bit. And then all together, our drums are going to sound like this. Alright, so now we can get into these drop basses here. I don't want to talk too much about sound design today, but I do want to go over a little bit of what I did with this main bass here. So this is the bass. So without any of the post-processing, we get this. So I know it sounds kind of goofy, but when it comes to this like tear-out guns, you typically want to keep your initial patch pretty simple. So you can see just doing a little bit of, I've got this wavetable here, doing a little bit of FM from B, some filtering. I did have a separate sub for the purpose of distorting it together and giving a little bit of crunch, but I later cut that out. And then on the effects here, of course, distortion and compression, and that's it. Super simple. You can see these wavetables here, this one, or excuse me, these LFOs here. This first one is controlling the wavetable position and the cutoff of the filter. The second one here is controlling the main tuning. And then this guy here is controlling something somewhere. I don't even know what it's controlling. But I don't know what that's going to. But these first two here are the biggest thing. This is kind of like your very standard gun LFO. And then we add in our multipass. So with the multipass, it sounds like this. So that does majority of the work. This multipass, I absolutely love this plugin. I highly suggest it. Everything I do in multipass, like I have an idea of what I want to do, but it's 90% trial and error. I've got a convolver here set to phaser 1. On the mids, I'm doing a little bit of frequency shifting, some phase distortion, and then a convolver. Especially when it comes to these convolvers, like it's pretty much all trial and error. I'm picking random things from like the real spaces folder usually, and I'm just tweaking it until I find a tone that I like. Same thing here. So this saturator and another convolver, like I'm just tweaking it until I find something I like. And I probably spent over an hour tweaking this one patch until I finally settled on what I got here. And you know, as you practice more and more, you kind of start to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it's really all just trial and error. And then of course, a little bit more distortion on the post effects here. The next thing I've got is some erosion. So without. So that's just to give it a little bit more, little bit more fuzz, and to give it a little bit more stereo because it is set to wide noise. Then we've got a saturator. This is set to wavetable. So without it. So you can hear how this really starts to kind of distort that sub and give us that crunch that we're looking for. And then this here, just some very light multi-band compression. Especially after going through all these stages of distortion, a little bit of compression just helps keeping it tight. Transient shaper, especially when working with these convolvers, you tend to lose your transient. So I'm just bringing this in to kind of boost that back up. And then the last thing, a little bit of EQ as well as a G clip. Like I said earlier, I'm completely cutting out the sub here. I'm cutting all the way up to 330 hertz, which is kind of extreme, but it works. Next thing I've got here, this is a phase plant preset. I believe this is from Odd Profit. Yeah, this one's from Odd Profit. All I'm really doing to this is a little bit of EQ, some multi-band compression, and a G clip. Then layering them up. And then down here, we've got some synth dirt, which is also from Odd Profit. I believe this synth dirt pack is free from his YouTube channel, so definitely if you don't have these, I would highly recommend getting them. And then I've got this phase 1 bass down here, which is mainly helping to kind of bring out the transient from the guns a little bit. And then this sustain. So this sustain is really cool. So I just want to listen to this bass group without the sustain so I can show you guys really quick. So this is what the guns sound like alone. So not bad. Then I added this Rovlo sustain, which has a fair amount of post-processing here. Don't need that. So without any of this, this is what we have. So first I'm doing is some ring mod. And this ring mod is, so I'm setting the modulator to self, and then I'm just cranking up the bias. Then I've got a couple of shifters here. So this first shifter is what I'm using to change the tonality from the A section to the B section. And then this second one here, I'm actually using to control it within each section. So it gives us this kind of, and then on this section, I'm just bringing it up, pitching it higher. So I'm keeping the movement, but I'm just taking it from a lower pitch to a higher pitch. That's why I've got the double shifters there. Next thing we've got here is a phaser flanger. And this just adds like a little bit of movement. And then some EQing, getting it up. And then this plugin, so this is a free volume shaper plugin. So I'm using this to create a more of like a quarter note. So right now it's kind of set to a half note. So with the, and then with this plugin, and this kind of creates like a little bit of a quarter note to keep the drop moving forward, especially when you've got these tear-out guns that are kind of moving in like you're not a typical quarter note or eighth note pattern. It's nice to have a quarter note in the background just to help people kind of find that rhythm a little bit. So when we add the guns with this sustain, we get this. So one more time without it. And then with it. So you can hear that really does a lot for my drop. Then last thing down here, we've got our sub. So this is a sub that I'm just using operator for, like a very, very basic sub patch. I am putting some kilohertz distortion on it, some bias distortion. And then I've got this sub rack here, which I got from phase 1. So without this sub rack, and then with. So just kind of add some nice like top end fuzz. In this particular style, it may not be super necessary because there already is a lot of high end in the Tearout guns, but it just still adds nice tonality to that sub. And then last thing here, I've got a sustain, which is I think just a serum preset. Yeah, nothing crazy. And then all I'm doing is EQing it, and then there is a tape stop. I don't even know why there's a tape stop on there because it's not using it. But I've got some different alternating sustains here. So this is one. Then we got another one here. So those are the two top sustains. And then in effects, I just have one little background loop here. It's like a siren. For fills, I'm really just doing a lot of like little glitch fills. So here I've got this company glitch with a little bit of ring mod. Again, just doing the self modulator with the bias up, some kilohertz distortion, some OTT. The OTT is really just to help kind of bring it up, especially after all this distortion, you kind of lose it a little bit. And then a G clip. And then further down the line here, we've got this little Reese fill. And another same glitch. And then another different Reese fill here at the end. Or no, sorry, this is a glitch. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier in these drums here, when I have this Reese fill in the middle here, I do have this drum fill playing as well. Which in context, you can like barely hear, but I still like it. I think it sounds good. So with all those drop elements together, this is what we get. All right, so getting into the second drop, it's pretty much copy and paste from the first drop. There's a couple of different elements that I changed. Number one being I did add a big impact here. So anytime you come out of a high energy moment, like a drop into a build or a drop into a bridge, whatever, maybe coming after a drop, you usually want to try and add big elements. That's why I've got this impact here along with a sub drop to kind of help carry the momentum over and out. And then I did change my guitar pattern here. So I added these 16th note guitars, which I do have 2 layers. And then other than that, everything's the same. I got same risers. That sub drop is the same as the first one. Same pads here. I did take out the ambient loops from the intro. They're not being used in this version, but that higher part of the frequency spectrum is being taken up by the guitars, which is the main reason I didn't do that. So with all those elements, this is build number 2. Alrighty, so getting into drop number 2. A lot of the stuff in this drop is the same stuff from the first drop. So my drums are exactly the same. I do have, I am using same or similar basses to the first drop, but I'm switching up the pattern. I did also add another sustain here. So I've got this downbeat sustain, which is just a serum preset that I kind of messed with the LFO here to give it that sweeping effect. And then we're doing a little bit of filtering here. And then we get into these sustains. So these are a couple of, like, just, again, these are nothing crazy. Just a little bit of bass distortion and some EQ work. So without these, this is the first sustain. Then with it. And same thing on the second one, so without. And then with. Let me combine them. And then the basses, so these are pretty much, this is the same exact bass I used in the first drop. The only thing is I did add this VRG bass here, which is just a little bit of bias distortion, some EQ, and a G clip, which I'm not even pushing it at all. So those 3 layers together. And then we do have our synth, of course, and then our sub, which is all the same from the first drop. I do have some fills here that are the same as the first drop. So I've got this, once again, company glitch, and then down here I've got this Reese. And I've got this little zap, which the zap does line up with a... No, never mind. Just kidding. I lied. So I've got the little zap there, which leads into the second half of the drop, which once again, we're leading it with this downbeat. And then like this longer fake out. Same basses. I tighten them up a little bit, especially when I'm doing these big reverbs, because it can get a little bit kind of messy with the tail. So, and then same sustains. I did add this kind of, and then I found this ivory bass loop that I really liked, which has a little bit of processing, nothing crazy. And then I kind of use this loop to set the pattern for my guns. So you'll notice that my guns match this pattern. And then in context, this loop just sits really far in the back of the mix. And of course, one last glitch here. And that leads into this Outro, very like I put no effort into this outro. It's just a little simple sweep into this impact here. And so that's the full track. I know it's my first YouTube video, so I apologize if I over explained certain things or under explained other things. I'm still kind of getting the hang of it, but I'm completely open to feedback. If anybody has any feedback or ideas for future videos, go ahead and leave in the comments below. Totally appreciate it. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me, guys. Until the next video.